Welcome to Footprints of Forgiveness and Faith. I'm Violet, and I've got a great story for you today. Whether you're returning or just tuning in for the first time, welcome. I'm so glad you're here, and I hope you stay for the miracle of healing you're about to witness as we embark on the book of Matthew, chapter 8. And FYI, chapters 1 through 7 are available in the playlist. We're in the thick of it now, following the most talked about person in history. After that monumental Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus laid out the rules for a kingdom so high, most of us can't even see the top of the mountain, he finally descended. And what happened the moment he came down? When Jesus came down from the mountain, large crowds followed him. Matthew 8, verse 1. They were hungry for proof. And in Matthew chapter 8, proof is exactly what they got, in a rapid-fire series of miracles that challenged every established rule of society. Let's get into it. The sheer audacity of the first person to approach Jesus is what defines this moment. It wasn't a Pharisee, a priest, or even a child. It was a leper. A man who was ceremonially and legally dead to society, bound by Mosaic law, as written in Leviticus 13, verses 45 through 46, to live in isolation and cry out, "Unclean." This man, a walking plague, pushes past all those faithful onlookers and kneels before Jesus. This act was absolute defiance of the law's mandate for isolation. His plea was desperate, yet dignified. And behold, a leper came to him and bowed down before him and said, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." Matthew 8, verse 2. The law was clear. Do not touch a leper. By extending his hand and touching the man, Jesus also deliberately defied the ritual law, making himself ceremonially unclean. This act shocked the crowd as much as the subsequent miracle, serving as a powerful declaration that his compassion was above the rules of defilement. The verse continues, Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, "I am willing, be cleansed." And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. Matthew 8, verse 3. Jesus defies every boundary, social, ceremonial, and religious, with a single brazen touch. He didn't just heal him, he completely restored his place in the community. And then, the anticlimax. Jesus tells the newly clean man to keep quiet and go through the proper channels. And Jesus said to him, "See that you tell no one, but go, show yourself to the priest and present the offering which Moses commanded, as a testimony to them." Matthew 8, verse 4. Of course, a man who has just been given a new life after social death isn't going to keep quiet. But the command itself is fascinating. Jesus respects the law just enough to send the man to the priests, forcing them to officially certify his miracle. Next up, an even bigger societal transgression. The last person anyone expected to seek help from a Jewish rabbi was a Roman centurion, an officer of the brutal occupying force. Yet, as Jesus entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, pleading with him and saying, "Lord, my servant is lying paralyzed at home, terribly tormented." Matthew 8, verses 5 through 6. The sheer power dynamic here is bizarre. A man who could order dozens of soldiers to their deaths is pleading for his servant to a man with no political power. Jesus remarkably immediately agrees to go. Jesus said to him, "I will come and heal him." Matthew 8, verse 7. But the centurion understood his own authority, and in doing so, he grasped a profound truth about Jesus' power. He didn't need Jesus to show up. He understood command from a distance. The centurion replied, "Lord, I am not worthy for you to come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I also am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. And I say to this one, 'Go,' and he goes, and to another, 'Come,' and he comes, and to my slave, 'Do this,' and he does it." Matthew 8, verses 8 and 9. Now, when Jesus heard this, he marveled and said to those who were following, Truly I say to you, I have not found such great faith with anyone in Israel. Matthew 8, verse 10. That's a mic drop moment, folks. Jesus was astonished by a pagan occupying force's faith, publicly shaming the Jewish faithful. And he didn't stop there. He used this centurion's faith as a terrifying prophecy for the religious elite. He said, I say to you that many will come from east and west and recline at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the sons of the kingdom will be cast out into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Matthew 8, verses 11 through 12. Ouch! Jesus didn't mince words. He was very direct with his words of warning and consequence for those who presume their place in the kingdom without true belief may find themselves excluded, while those from outside who demonstrate faith will be included. This is a core part of his teaching about the nature of the kingdom of heaven, as he has great disdain for lukewarm believers, which he specifically references in Revelation 3, verses 15 through 16. While instances of the specific term lukewarm are limited to Revelation, the idea of being indifferent or half-hearted in faith is a recurring theme that Jesus and the apostles address throughout the New Testament. These passages can be found in Matthew, Luke, James, and 2 Timothy, and collectively encourage genuine active faith instead of complacency. After his warning, he simply delivered the command, and Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, it shall be done for you as you have believed." And the servant was healed that very moment. Matthew 8, verse 13. With the crowd still buzzing from the centurion incident, Jesus and his disciples retreat to the home of Peter. After all that public chaos, there was no rest. By the way, for those new to the Bible, Peter, originally Simon, was one of Jesus' first and most impulsive disciples. He was a rough, successful fisherman called away from his nets on the Sea of Galilee. You will see his larger-than-life character develop throughout the New Testament. He's got lots of mishaps and learned wisdoms in later moments, including the rock, the future leader, and the guy who constantly opens his mouth and sticks his foot in it. But for now, he's just a guy whose mother-in-law is sick. This is his house in Capernaum. When Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying sick in bed with a fever, and he touched her hand and the fever left her, and she got up and began serving him. Matthew 8, verses 14 and 15. Jesus touches her hand, and like the centurion servant, the fever immediately leaves. She doesn't need to rest. She doesn't need a few days to recover. She gets up and starts serving. No theatrical performance, just a gentle touch and instantaneous healing. There was no hesitation as she sprang up and immediately began attending to them with food and drinks, proving the restoration was complete. That's the kind of instantaneous healing that gets noticed. The instant healing in Peter's house didn't stay a secret for long. As the sun finally set that evening, the crowds couldn't be held back. They descended upon the house, bringing every afflicted soul they could find, the sick, the thrashing, and the demon-possessed, all dumped at the doorstep. It was a chaotic, desperate scene, and Matthew summarizes this overwhelming wave of human need and Jesus' response perfectly. Now when evening came, they brought to him many who were demon-possessed, and he cast out the spirits with a word, and healed all who were ill. This happened so that what was spoken through Isaiah the prophet would be fulfilled. He himself took our illnesses and carried away our diseases. Matthew verses 16 and 17. It's a shocking testament to his power that he handled that overwhelming backlog of human suffering, the infirmities and the diseases, in one quiet, efficient evening, fulfilling ancient prophecy right there in Peter's living room. After the nonstop demands of the crowds, Jesus decides it's time for a break. Now, when Jesus saw a crowd around him, he gave orders to depart to the other side of the sea. Matthew 8, verse 18. But before they could escape, two individuals tried to join the club, not quite realizing the membership fees involved. First, a scribe, a religious authority no less, steps forward. Then a scribe came and said to him, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." Matthew 8, verse 19. This guy thinks following Jesus is a promotion, a ticket to the good life. Jesus' response? Brutally honest career advice. Jesus said to him, "The foxes have holes and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Matthew 8, verse 20. Jesus is emphasizing that following him may not lead to a life of comfort or security, but rather it implies that discipleship comes with sacrifices and instability. Next, one of his own disciples asks for a small, very traditional delay. Another of the disciples said to him, "Lord, permit me first to go and bury my father." Matthew 8, verse 21. This wasn't a callous request, it was a sacred duty. But Jesus demanded an unnatural, uncompromising focus. But Jesus said to him, "Follow me and allow the dead to bury their own dead." Matthew 8, verse 22. Once again, Jesus didn't mince words and informed the disciple that the call to discipleship is urgent and paramount, even over traditional familial duties. Following him requires total dedication and can mean leaving behind important, albeit temporal, responsibilities. Finally, they managed to slip away from the demanding crowds. When he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. Matthew 8, verse 23. These disciples were the real experts here. They were seasoned sailors who knew the Sea of Galilee, a basin prone to sudden, violent storms like the back of their calloused hands. But they had never seen anything like what happened next. The water, which just moments ago was their escape route, betrayed them. The waves grew monstrous, swallowing their small fishing vessel whole. While the boat was being engulfed and their lives were in real peril, the man who had just healed an entire town was fast asleep. Matthew describes the scene. "And behold, there arose a great storm on the sea so that the boat was being covered with the waves, but he himself was asleep. And they came to him and woke him, saying, 'Save us, Lord, we are perishing.'" Matthew 8, verses 24 through 25. It wasn't a gentle nudge. It was an act of raw panic. They weren't asking for a miracle, they were demanding the only person not panicking wake up and save their lives. Jesus, roused from his sleep amid a genuine Category 5 maritime disaster, didn't immediately calm the storm. His first response was a rebuke directed squarely at them, not the waves. Matthew records his response and the immediate effect. He said to them, "Why are you afraid, you men of little faith?" Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the sea, and a great calm followed. Matthew 8, verse 26. He addressed their lack of faith, and then he silenced creation itself. The command was absolute, and the response was instantaneous. The water went from raging to glass in a moment. These were rugged fishermen, professional sailors who faced squalls for a living, and what they witnessed, the sea obeying a simple command, shattered their reality. Their reaction speaks volumes. The men were amazed and said, "What kind of man is this that even the winds and the sea obey him?" Matthew 8, verse 27. It's one thing to heal a fever. It's another thing entirely to silence creation itself. After all that, they finally land on the far side in Gentile territory, the country of the Gadarenes. They had just survived a life-threatening storm, and the shore they reached was a world away from the purity of Jewish Galilee. This was the place where the unclean business of raising pigs was conducted. This was hostile territory. And the reception was immediate, violent, and demonic. The moment they stepped off the boat, two men, completely consumed by evil spirits and living among the rock-hewn tombs, met them. Matthew sets the scene with chilling efficiency. And when he came to the other side, into the country of the Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men confronted him as they were coming out of the tombs. They were so extremely violent that no one could pass by that way. Matthew 8, verse 28. These weren't just madmen, these were weapons of pure spiritual anarchy, men so dangerous they rendered a public road impassable. The demons speak through the men, and the sound is terrifying, a unified, inhuman shriek of recognition. They knew exactly who had just arrived. It's a moment of bizarre, profound theology being delivered by the mouths of demons. And they cried out, saying, "What business do you have with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" Matthew 8, verse 29. Even the forces of darkness knew the clock was ticking, and they recognized Jesus' ultimate authority to judge them. Now, just down the hill, the beautiful, green, lucrative hillside of Gentile prosperity, there was the real prize of the local economy. Not the souls of 2 tormented men, but hundreds of fat, unclean, and extremely valuable pigs. A whole year's profit, grazing innocently, completely unaware they were about to be served up as collateral damage. They were, in the brutal language of commerce, a massive, walking, lucrative business expense that was about to be cashed out for 2 lives. Now, there was a herd of many pigs feeding at a distance from them. Matthew 8, verse 30. Evicted from their human hosts and frantic for any available temporary physical address, and the demons begged him, saying, "If you're going to cast us out, send us into the herd of pigs." Matthew 8, verse 31. Jesus didn't debate the ethics of property loss. He didn't pause for a cost-benefit analysis. His command was a single, absolute word. And he said to them, "Go." And they came out and went into the pigs, and the entire herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and perished in the waters. Matthew 8, verse 32. The miracle was immediate, catastrophic, and expensive. The demons, once they entered the animals, drove them to spectacular, self-destructive madness, a stampede that ended in the entire herd's destruction, drowning in the deep waters. The local pig herders, who just watched their entire livelihood, their entire annual income, plunge to its doom, ran to the town not in fear, but in pure financial panic. The herdsmen ran away and went into the city and reported everything, including the incident of the men who had been demon-possessed. Matthew 8, verse 33. The townspeople, alerted to the disaster, came out to meet Jesus. Did they come to celebrate the return of their 2 lost and broken citizens, now sitting calmly, fully clothed, and perfectly sane? Of course not. The townspeople showed they had a clear preference. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they pleaded with him to leave their region. Matthew 8, verse 34. They'd rather have the pigs, the prophets, and the madmen in the tombs, the comfortable status quo, than a power that upsets their entire balance sheet. They preferred their predictability over true, world-changing salvation.
Matthew chapter 8 is the definitive action chapter where Jesus proves his authority over law, sickness, nature, and the spiritual world. But the most revealing moments aren't the healings, they are the reactions. The centurion understood authority. The disciples revealed their fear. The hopeful followers revealed their lack of commitment. And the townspeople showed they valued stability and commerce over salvation. The question chapter 8 leaves us with is brutal. Is his power worth the inconvenience to your comfortable life? That's it for our deep dive into the high-stakes action of Matthew chapter 8. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to be notified of more faith-based content, including the Book of Matthew daily verse shorts on YouTube and Rumble, and long-form chapters like this one on YouTube, Rumble, and Hubhopper. Hope to see you next time for Chapter 9, when Jesus really starts to stir things up and call out the very people who think they're closest to God. Thanks for watching. See you soon.